Hi, I recently gave my PT academic examination and I scored there pretty well. I have past experience of giving IELTS general exam, and when I was booking my PT academic, I was kind of confused that if I should be giving IELTS or PTE. Well, in IELTS I didn't score very well, though in PT I did, but when I cleared my exam, I thought, why not tell the world about what is the difference between these two examinations? So today we are going to discuss IELTS versus PT academic, which one is easier and which one to attempt. So broadly speaking, based on my understanding of the two subjects, I have divided IELTS and PT differences into 11 broad categories. The first category is medium of exam. So IELTS is totally paper-based test, while PT is computer-based. The speaking portion of IELTS is, you have to go and get yourself interviewed by a human, a person, a real person. While in PT, the computer um, takes your interview and ask you to perform certain things that you have to reply, and on basis of that, the algorithm, the computer, is going to assess you and give you marks. The second parameter is superior English score. It's basically the comparison of score in in English. What do you call a superior English score? Like for example, in IELTS, it is 8 band corresponds to the superior English score in all individually in all four sections, while in PT 79 plus score individually in all four sections corresponds to superior English. I have mentioned this as a parameter. I've taken superior English score because I was targeting for this score. Third parameter is content difficulty. Uh, I found that the course content of IELTS is of medium difficulty. I, did some uh, practice papers for listening, and once I get a hang of it, it was it was very easy for me at that time. I scored very well in listening sections in all the attempts that I gave for for IELTS. I'm sorry. Mm, on the other hand, PT's course content was complex, and I found on various parts of internet that even natives find it difficult. And when I'm saying natives, natives as in native English speakers, it's very complex. Uh, you have to practice it a lot in order to achieve your goal. Though for IELTS, I don't think so that a native English speaker will have to rigorously go through the question types and understand what each of them is. Even if they do a few days of practice and just go into IELTS and appear for the exam, I don't see any problem of them clearing the exam easily. Um, for speaking, oh, this I think there is something that I've missed here. For speaking, no special preparation is required. Oh, from general day-to-day life. I mean, the kind of questions that you're asked on speaking is, okay, tell me something about yourself, or what did you eat for breakfast? What do you think about uh, females being promoted more in the society, or what is your ideology of about traditions? Should they be followed or not? These are some basic questions, general questions you would be asked in IELTS speaking portion. In PTE, they have certain sets of questions. There is a predefined set like describe image, retell lecture, and questions are asked from there. The computer is going to give you some, play some recordings, and based on that, you have to summarize whatever whatever you listen and reply back. That kind of that is the way PT speaking goes. Uh, In IELTS, I found that basic to decent vocab skills are needed. It's not extremely hi-fi or anything like that. It's very decent vocab skills. But in PT, I think It's one step, one level more. A better vocabulary is needed, like decent to medium vocabulary is needed. In IELTS, uh, audio conversations that you hear are easier to understand. I mean, I have given IELTS twice before, and I have heard so many PT audios now that I can easily make out if two audios are being played, then I would be able to find out which one is was played in IELTS, because in IELTS the conversations is pretty simple and pretty clear. In PTE, the audios are played. I mean, the audio discussions that we hear are pretty quick, pretty fast, and they are a little bit difficult to understand. In IELTS, there was no need of any note taking, other than, when you go for speaking, they give you a topic to speak for a few, for a minute or two. I don't really remember that, but and they ask you that, okay, for next 1 minute you can, take down your notes, and you can speak on the basis of your notes. But in and so I mean, there's no other need in IELTS to take notes, but in PTE your note taking needs to be very, very good. There are up to 5 questions which require note taking in PTE. The next parameter is booking date. IELTS, I mean, if I try to book today, I won't be able to find any slots available in this month or maybe next month. You have to, pre-plan it a lot early than when you want to give the test. PTE slots are easily available. You can just go to the PT Pearson website and, book a slot for yourself for next week, or the week after that. The next parameter is multiple bookings at the same time. In IELTS, you can book one test today and the next test on the next day if it is available, if the slot is available. But in PT, it's not the case. Once you have booked it, unless till that day, till the very day of the date of examination, you cannot book another PT test. Then comes the flow of questions in exam. This is very important. In IELTS, when you go into the examination room, you are the first section is listening there, and in PT it's speaking. So when they give you all your headphones and all, and you are made to hear a recording. And when you hear that recording, uh, prior to any question, the first recording here is an example recording, and in IELTS, every question that you hear prior to that, you hear or you read or you see, prior to that, there would be an example question that would be played, or that would be shown on the paper. So it would be easier for your brain to understand that, okay, now that this particular question type is over, you're moving to a new question type, and it gets easier for the brain to adjust. While in PTE, it's not the case. I mean, they hardly give you any. I don't remember seeing any example question. It started with read aloud section, and they immediately jumped over to describe image. They immediately after that immediately read a lecture came up, and I don't even remember those many types of questions. I mean, it was hard for me to for it was hard for me, for my brain to adjust to different types of questions which were thrown at me, and they were thrown so quick. It was hard. Next is timekeeping. Now, as the test in IELTS is paper based, so one can estimate how many questions and the types are pending. So in obviously this is not applicable in listening section, because listening sections are predefined. The timelines for listening sections are predefined, but for other sections like reading and writing, you know that, okay, these are the questions that are pending, and you would take up a second question before the first one. because it's all paper based type test. In PT, it's not the case. You have to, if you click on next, if you skip on a question and click on next, you cannot come back and do that question again. Or you cannot decide, okay, that you will be first doing describe image and then only retail lecture. If retail lecture comes first, you will have to attempt it first. Bookmarking. One can decide to rearrange the question. Now, this and timekeeping are pretty similar. Um Pretty similar factors. So it's the same thing that I just said in timekeeping, that if you can bookmark, or you can park your question to attempt later in IELTS. In PT, it's not the case. Uh, Different sections. Now, uh, in IELTS, it starts with listening session, as I said before, and once the listening section is over, then only reading or writing section is going to come next. The marks of my listening sections will contribute to listening section only. So if, let's say, listening section has 5 questions, so all those 5 questions, the sum total of the marks in those 5 questions will contribute to listening section only, and they will not contribute to reading or writing or any other section. But in PTE, they are all jumbled, they are all mixed. So while recordings are played, they are not checking not only your listening skills but your speaking skills, maybe your writing skills as well. So it's kind of different in PTE. Um, and because of this, the scoring criteria is also different. When I used to give my listening practice in during IELTS, so what I saw was, okay, if anytime I'm not doing, if I'm, let's say I've done 2 incorrect questions. I've given 2 incorrect answers. So I would know that, okay, this means that I would, out of 40, my score would be 38, and 38 would correspond to a band of 8 or 7. So it was easy for me to understand that as one mistake in IELTS has the potential to reduce your band from a higher band to lower band. In PT, it's not, because the questions are spread out everywhere. Listening scoring is done in reading section sometimes. In speaking section, listening is getting scored. Because of this, it is very hard for you to judge what is the final score would look like. Um, this is what I've written. Scoring for reading and learning is clearly defined. If you know how many answers are wrong, you can guess your band. For every 3 to 4 incorrect answers, your band reduces by 1. In PT, scoring criteria is unknown. You would not be able to guess your score. Mostly, you will not be able to. In IELTS, writing section will depend on how clearly you have put your ideas without spelling or grammatical mistakes. So, in writing section of PT and IELTS, both are similar. PT get 2 questions, and probably IELTS also get 2 or 3 questions only, or is it the other way around? So, but the thing I want to convey is how good you write, how best you present your ideas will drive IELTS. Uh, will drive score in IELTS as well as PTE. Your vocabulary should be good. Your connecting words should be good. Your written discourse should be good. So this is what writing section is all about in PT and IELTS. The only difference I saw in writing section was in IELTS it's all about pen and paper based. So for me especially, writing with a pen on a piece of paper is a bit difficult. I have been in this corporate culture for so long that it's hard for me not to use my laptop to write. And when we are in corporate, what we do is we would type a statement, and then when if we think, okay, it's not correct, we can easily go back and retype it. But in paper-based tests, you will have to scrub it with an eraser and then write it again, which is kind of tricky. It doesn't gives a very clean picture to the reviewer. Now, speaking section is scored by human, like I said before, that a human interviewer is going to take the interview, is going to take your interview, and will check your oral fluency, pronunciation, and content. A human mindset can be biased. They may not like your appearance, for example. They may give you not so decent marks. But uh, uh, computer, on the other hand, in PTE, uh, uh, may not judge you based on the type of clothes you wear. And there are other factors. With humans can make mistake while computers won't. And but yes, one thing I would like to say is in IELTS, the person, that interviewer who is sitting there, uh, mm, has can give you some percentage of marks, but they audio record you, and your recording is sent out to somewhere, someplace who are going to assess your performance. So it's not just the human who is present there, you're the interviewer who is present in the room, who gives you the marks. Your recording is sent out, and there is some certain group of people who give you marks based on what they hear. um, Last factor of comparison is result announcement. IELTS is the result comes out in 10 to 14 days. You can check it on their website. In PT, I don't know. I mean, I checked back my PT website, the PT account, and I saw my result there. So it may come immediate. It may come in next few hours. PT says that it takes 5 days for the results to come out, but I found that it came out in 2 days. Oh, sorry, 2 hours. Now, the final decision to appear for PT or IELTS is yours. I attempted IELTS twice without any serious preparation, but could not score superior grade. I attempted PTE. Oh, twice is not correct. I attempted PTE once with just 1 week of thorough preparation and scored superior. PTE is difficult, I would say very difficult to prepare and attempt, but scoring is a lot lenient. Now I'll give you an example. When I attempted PTE very recently, the way it went for me, I was not happy at the end of the examination. I knew that I have done well in writing, and I might have done well in listening, but there were certain questions in speaking and reading that I just couldn't perform better. So I was, because I had experience of attending or taking IELTS exams before, so I just could imagine myself in the zone of band between 6 to 7. That is what I was hoping for. But when the result came out in an hour, I was already 79 plus in PT. So I found that the scoring was a lot lenient. Which one do I prefer? Okay, for speaking, in prefer IELTS if you can speak on any topic given for a minute. So if I ask you to talk about cricket, if you can speak on it for a minute or two, I'm not sure if it's just for a minute or two, but if you can speak on any topic given, and any general topic, it's not going to be the US economic policies, not like that. Any general topic, if you are given and you are able to speak on it for a minute or two, then go ahead with then prefer IELTS speaking. Prefer PT if you can hear a conversation and make quick notes and are able to speak about them fluently. So if you hear a conversation and you can make quick notes about those, and you can summarize that conversation quickly, like in 10 in next 10 so there is a 10-second break, and in next 40 seconds you have to summarize that conversation. So if you can do that, then PT is the way for you to go. For me, PT speaking was a bit difficult. So that is why I said for me, IELTS speaking was a lot easier. But I tend to get nervous. So that is the reason I couldn't score a lot in IELTS speaking, but for me, it's still IELTS attempting was easier. I scored well in PTE speaking just because PTE scoring is lenient. Writing section. Prefer IELTS if you are comfortable writing using a pen and paper. So there is no real difference between IELTS and PTE writing section. Only thing is, if you are comfortable writing with a pen and paper, then you can prefer IELTS. Otherwise, prefer PTE if you are good with using a keyboard. I found PT more easier to attempt because, like I said before, I have a lot of experience on corporate culture, and all I do all day is, dealing in words and Microsoft Word and Microsoft Excel. So for me, PT was a lot easier. Reading section. If you are good at reading long comprehensions, if you are able to, if you're good in reading and understanding the long comprehensions, then you should go ahead and do IELTS. And prefer PT if you have medium to good vocab. Medium to good means decent vocab, more than decent. So if you do not have decent vocab, but you can read long comprehension, that I think you should go ahead with reading. Otherwise, PT is fine. Which one is more easier to attempt? I always found IELTS is more easier to attempt. I used to get good grades in reading. I was very picky. I'm very picky. And sorry, I'm very detailed reader. So I would read and read again and practice a lot on the reading sections, reading comprehensions. So that is why it was easier for me to attempt. But remember, in IELTS, the scoring is really tough. The marking is critical. So one or two mistakes can push your band down. Listening. If you like solving easy questions, then you should prefer IELTS. IELTS listening section is the easiest. PT listening section was difficult than IELTS, and that is the reason that I mentioned here IELTS is more easier to attempt. If you do not know about PTE exam format and have less than 2 weeks to prepare, I recommend you take IELTS. PTE exam format is way different than IELTS. I made this mistake um, that I booked PT exam in the next week without even understanding what PT format was about. So I had really tough time. So if you do not know about PT exam format and have less than 2 weeks to prepare, it's time. Then you should take IELTS. If you have sufficient time to prepare, and if you have good oral fluency, or you think that you would be able to, make up for that, and your note taking is very good, I recommend you take PTE. So I'll in the next slide I'll tell you my the experience of IELTS. So I have attempted IELTS twice. In 2014, I got good marks, but my writing was just 6.5, and this was the time when I had to, erase a lot of sentences, and I was not able to, I had a pencil maybe, and I had to erase a lot of sentence, and and then I had to rewrite them, and my paragraphs were not very clean. I scored a decent 7 in speaking. In 2019, this time I didn't do a lot of erasing, but I was not able to complete my written discourse. So, and that is the reason that I couldn't again score very well in writing. Speaking was again 7. I could have improved in both of them. I didn't have a good night's sleep the previous night, and that was one of the primary reasons that I was not able to score very well. I could have scored 8 both the time, in 2019 especially. Both the times I didn't do a lot of preparation. It was just focused on 4 or 5 practice papers for learning and listening and reading sections. Didn't do anything for writing or speaking. Uh, didn't do anything for speaking section, but practice a few questions for writing section. Just looked at some 12th grade book, and I just saw, okay, if this is a letter for application for maintaining monument, what is the kind of language is being used? Just 1 or 2 questions on writing section, and that was fine because the language is applicable for all language on one application is usually applicable for other applications as well. So just 1 or 2 questions I practiced on writing section. I couldn't score the highest grade in writing and speaking section both the times. was not very concerned for writing, as I knew if I could practice a bit more using pencil and paper, I would score well. IELTS is a paper-based test, like I said before, and it was difficult for me to write any sentence without erasing it once or twice. Holding a pencil to write on a paper was really challenging for me. This was my experience of IELTS. Now, my experience of PTE, as I was more confident on attempting test on a computer, I booked PTE test. Well, this is partially correct. But the another reason that I wanted to book PTE and I booked PTE was because I didn't get any dates on IELTS for the next few months. One of the reason is could be because the coronavirus is so much prevalent in my community right now. I'm sitting in New York, by the way, and I'm safe, thank you. So the coronavirus is so much prevalent here that I didn't have. It could be that the IELTS examinations are all examinations are cancelled. Maybe, I don't know. But I was not even aware about the format of PTE. I booked on Sunday for the next Saturday, and I was not even aware about the format of PTE. I thought one of my friends said it's very simple, and I thought that okay, the PTE and IELTS exam formats should be similar. What could be different? But when I actually encountered the PTE practice questions, I found it a lot more challenging. There was no way I could have passed this. It's because of I had to put in a lot of efforts, like 10 to 12 hours of effort per day for one whole week. But I think because of lenient marking, I cleared my PTE. So this is the score that I received recently on PTE, and looks like, yeah, I've got a superior English. So yeah, so this was my experience of PT, and I've tried highlighting everything that I have understood on the difference between IELTS and PTE. I recommend, if you have more than 2 weeks of time, then go ahead and take a PT, because PT is all about lenient marking. IELTS, on the other hand, is very critical on what you write or what you speak. So there are chances that they would deduct your marks. Um, Content wise, IELTS is much easier to prepare. It's the final delivery on the examination day that would matter. Thank you so much.